Hi everyone, my name is Jordan and I'm the principal viola of the Irish Baroque Orchestra. So here's my Baroque viola, I should say, not rock viola. That would be really strange to have in the Irish Baroque Orchestra. Some of you might be wondering that this looks quite new and quite modern, like a modern viola. The reason why it does look quite new is because it is new. It's a modern copy of an instrument from 1640. It was based on a model of an Armati viola that I had made for me in 2013 by a fantastic maker in Poland. The main differences between a Baroque viola and a modern viola, there are a few, so we'll quickly go through them. The strings. On a Baroque viola or a Baroque string instrument, we have gut strings. On this instrument, I've chosen 2 plain gut strings on the top and then 2 covered gut strings on the bottom. Another difference is the bridge. Don't know whether you can see, slightly lower than a modern instrument. Another thing that we have is this. This is the tail gut, and on the Baroque viola it's made from gut and it is tied into the tailpiece. On a modern instrument this would be made out of plastic and metal and it would be sort of screwed into the tailpiece. Another big difference that we have is the neck. The neck on a Baroque instrument is angled, so slightly. So this changes the tension of the strings. Again with the bridge, because it is lower, this affects the tension of the strings that pass over it. So overall, with this difference in tension, it means that Baroque instruments in general are quieter and softer sounding than their modern counterparts. So why did I choose the viola? Well, it's a really awkward question because initially I didn't actually choose the viola. I actually wanted to learn the violin, but my music teachers at the time at school must have had some sort of private, secret conversation without me there, and decided to start me on the viola. Now in hindsight, that's probably one of the best decisions anybody has ever made for me, because it basically formed the beginning of my journey as a violist. So I think my favourite thing about playing the Baroque viola is, I think, probably pioneering something that has suffered, historically anyway, neglect over however many years. Historically, the viola was always this sort of the lesser skilled string players go-to, I guess. So what I feel passionate about is pioneering something that has suffered this sort of undue neglect. The way that I try and do that is by bringing the viola out of the texture, usually in chamber music, orchestral music, whichever sort of situation. To the point sometimes when people aren't quite ready for it, I find. Sometimes I get some very strange looks from colleagues who perhaps don't favour that, which I get, of course. They're wrong, but yeah. But sometimes I think people hear something that they haven't perhaps heard before. It's been there, but they haven't heard it before. So that's what I feel is one of my favourite things to do, is explore ways in which the viola can be at the forefront of whatever sort of music it is that you're playing. So one of my favourite pieces from the Baroque period has to be Brandenburg Concerto No. 6 by Bach. This is probably where a lot of Baroque violists are divided, because it is such a huge piece. It's an absolute marathon to get through, which has really interesting ideas, the way that it was composed. Again, back to the idea that historically the viola was always the less skilled string players' go-to. Interestingly, Bach in this concerto writes the most technically demanding lines for 2 solo violas. The piece is in 3 movements. We have the first movement, which is an absolute marathon of a piece. It's just constantly playing and playing quick notes for the whole time, for both parts. The slow movement, which I think is one of my all-time favourite slow movements, is just this really sort of serene, calm, reflective contrast to what has already happened. And the last movement is this sort of rustic jig in which the violas sort of interweave and play about with each other. So it's a really fun piece. I love playing it. I've played it a fair few times already. Every time it is a killer, but I enjoy it and I always go back to it. And I actually use the first movement especially as a really good practice piece. If you see me at a concert afterwards, ask me why. So here's a small sample from the first viola part from Brandenburg Concerto No. 6 by Bach.